Plant yourself down and pour yourself some tea because it's episode 9 of the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and this one's out of this world. Last episode ended on an ominous note with a knocking at the Kinkle's door. Could it be Tommy returned from the dead? Or worse? Harvey opens the door and... oh, it's just Sabrina. She's just casually checking in to see if any zombies might have dropped by. Lo and behold, Harvey's elated as Tommy's back, but due to all the trauma from the collapse, he's not really eating, or talking, or anything. At home, Ambrose has bought some sweet new duds for his first day working for Blackwood, who's currently freshening up after an evening of kinky flagellation with Zelda. Faustus asks Zelda to keep quiet about this, as Lady Blackwood isn't quite as fond on cheating as he is.
I put the gun in swinger, baby!
Which of course would be a horrible influence for his twin sons. He asks Zelda if she'd like to be their unholy godmother or night mother, and also take over Lady Blackwood's classes at the academy, and Zelda's like... Sabrina fills Ambrose in on everything that's happening with Tommy. The doctor says he'll be fine in a few days, but Ambrose isn't satisfied by any doctor's opinion unless it's a witch doctor. Meanwhile, it's bedtime at the academy, and the young witches are reciting the Dark Lord's Prayer, which seems to be the opposite of the Lord's Prayer. As she recites, Prudence notices Agatha having a tough time existing before she pukes out some dirt. After Sabrina's shower, Nick astral projects in and... wait a minute, how long were you watching her for, Nick? Let's Sherlock this.
I have new evidence to submit to the court.
In episode 4, Ambrose has enough time to astral project to his date and be early, have Wardwell snoop around the Spellmans for a while, and wait for Luke to arrive and start a conversation before even one psychopomp shows up. Meanwhile, Nick arrives and there's immediately a pomp in the window. He would have been there for at least 5 minutes, ergo, you were totally perving on Sabrina in the shower, weren't you, Nick?
You need to leave.
He also lets Sabrina know Agatha's coughing up gravel. At the Kinkles, Harvey catches Tommy scratching up the mirrors in the dark. To try and help jog his memory, Harvey shows his brother an old family album, but the only thing he seems to respond to is his old football photo. At Susie's, Dorothea has appeared to her once more, goading her into some mischief before Dad comes in, hearing voices. The next morning, Hilda gets the call that the miners' bodies have been found and are going to be sent over for autopsy. Won't be long before Hilda and Zelda find out about Sabrina's night of necromancy. Zelda and Ambrose are also heading out their first day at the academy. Sabrina returns the Book of the Dead, but is caught by Miss Wardwell. She plays coy with Sabrina and lets her know she can borrow anything she'd like from her office if she asks. What a pal. In the hall, Roz rushes up to Sabrina as the news has come out Tommy is alive, and Roz has had a cunning dream about him. She was in the woods and it was snowing when she spots 3 dogs chewing apart Tommy's carcass. This gives Sabrina the idea to bring Roz to Tommy and to try to figure out what's going on with him. Ambrose starts his first day at the academy in Blackwood's office with Luke there. And is it me or what? Why does Luke look always so damn evil all the time? I don't trust you, man. I don't trust you. But who cares? Ambrose gets a pet mouse. Aw. A familiar of his own named Leviathan. A cheeky little name considering a Leviathan is a giant sea monster. Blackwood is gaining Ambrose's loyalty as he'll need his help on a mission to reform the rules of the Church of Night. And Luke and Ambrose get to work. Unfortunately, they're interrupted by the Weird Sisters featuring Pervo Nick, who hope Ambrose might know something about what's happening to Agatha. She's gotten worse, now she's coughing up turnips. At Dr. Cerberus's, Susie's doing a little shoplifting. Dorothea's idea, no doubt, before being confronted by the football bros for a little bullying. Luckily, Hilda's there to save the day and tell the boys their deepest, darkest secrets, including bully number 2, who's in love with the ringleader. Aww. When Hilda spots the book, Susie goes running. The book she was stealing was Orlando by Virginia Woolf. Considered a feminist classic, it depicts the adventures of a poet who changes sex from man to a woman and lives for centuries, meeting the key figures of English literary history. Hilda gets a call from Ambrose and goes to check up on Agatha. She reckons Agatha has too much earth in her and prescribes fizzy water with cayenne pepper to balance out the elements. Of course, this is all bull to prevent them from freaking out. The Grim Reaper is pissed that Agatha was revived, and now it means to collect. Sabrina brings Roz to visit Tommy, who's just staring at a tree. Tommy is non-reactive to everything with a few exceptions, including a football throw. We'll later learn that Tommy's without a soul, it's lost in limbo, and my guess is that all his husk of a body can do is react to muscle memory, like how he used to be a star football player. Inside, Roz uses her cunning on Tommy, and enters a misty realm with the sounds of crying babies. As she catches a glimpse of Tommy in the distance, she's interrupted by a woman who appears as some sort of corrupted creature with a noose around her neck. Mr. Kinkle gets home, and that's always good news.
Dad, they were helping.
Like they know more than Doc Fipes.
Really? They can't come over and help your son? Maybe watch him for a bit and feed him or something? Yeesh, I'm so done with this dude. Roz needs to cunning this fool to see who put a stick up his back. At Susie's, she goes over the events at Dr. Cerberus's with Dorothea. She mentions Hilda, and Dorothy asks if the Spellmans are still witches. Meanwhile, Sabrina accidentally spills the beans about Tommy to Hilda, who's all, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed." Oof, hate that one. But Sabrina still believes she can save Tommy, as his soul is lost in limbo, an area of the afterlife in between heaven and hell where you go if you died before your time or you're an unbaptized baby. All she needs to do is get there and retrieve him. Hilda states that's impossible as Tommy's in mortal limbo and no witch can enter. Luckily for Sabrina, she's half mortal. But the longer Tommy lives, the closer Agatha gets to death. There must be balance. At Dark Glee Club, Zelda looks to impress Blackwood with a cheery rendition of Do Re Mi from The Sound of Music? Unfortunately, they get interrupted by Agatha, who's ready for her solo now that she's puked out more dirt. Blackwood is furious and heads out to kill Tommy and restore the balance. Zelda stops him and begs Faustus to let her take care of it, to try and save face as Sabrina is her niece. Her responsibility. In the mortuary, Ambrose shows Hilda and Sabrina bite marks found on the dead miners' bodies. Human bite marks. Tommy hasn't eaten since he's returned because he's already full, at least for now. And we're back to this dirtbag who's now drunk and yelling at his non-responsive son when Harvey pushes his dad and gets a punch in return. Tommy's muscle memory kicks in once more, this time using its reflex of protecting Harvey. Sabrina shows up with some mysterious water that will put Tommy to sleep and prevent him from chewing up Harvey. When she gets home, Zelda is waiting for her, and boy, oh boy, is she pissed. The whole argument that follows is about how Sabrina's messing with nature and people's lives, both witch and mortal, and how Sabrina is going to fix it and bring Tommy back. And, pause. Is anyone else on Team Zelda here? Sabrina has totally messed shit up. Get your revenge on the Weird Sisters another way, but you're actually hurting Harvey more than you're helping him, and you're hurting your family too. Really selfish. The cherry on top of this scene is this.
And you're not my mother!
Ouch. Stubborn as ever, Sabrina pursues her journey into limbo by asking help from Miss Wardwell. Sabrina confesses to stealing the Book of the Dead and using a resurrection spell, and naturally Wardwell is understanding in an effort to solidify Sabrina's trust in her. She mentions that limbo is dangerous and that there's a monstrous soul eater inside.
That's right, partiers, it's time to limbo!
Does she really want to go?
Harvey would do it for me in a heartbeat.
Which is Sabrina's motivation for the whole thing. Hilda walks in on Zelda flagellating herself, this time as punishment. She's distraught over everything Sabrina has done and the fact she can never say no to her. She reminds her too much of her father. Blackwood recruits the functioning Weird Sisters to go and kill Tommy Kinkle as he has no faith in Zelda, something Nick overhears. So before the two get inside the house, Nick uses an old witch's trap of spiking their footprints to lock them in place. Looks like Nick wants to see this one play out. Is it because he's loyal to Sabrina and the Spellmans, or perhaps something else? In the woods, Miss Wardwell takes Sabrina to a portal to limbo. She ties yarn to her wrist so that when Sabrina wants to return, she'll know her way back, and Miss Wardwell can open the portal to pull her out. Sabrina enters limbo with the same mist and sound of crying babies as Roz heard earlier. Dark figures wander about as lost souls, but none seem to be Tommy. Then a familiar figure appears. Sabrina's mom? She too is lost in limbo. Remember earlier when it was mentioned that limbo is where you go if you die before you were meant to? The plane crash in which Sabrina's parents died certainly seems like it was no accident. Sabrina's mom ominously states they took her baby after she was baptized. There are still a number of holes in the story of Sabrina's double baptisms that have yet to be filled. But before we can learn more, in comes the Soul Eater. In the ensuing chaos, Sabrina manages to run into Tommy and grab his hand to rush him out. But that's the only part that makes it through.
Oh, my bad.
Tommy's been soul-eaten, and he gone. There's only one more option for Sabrina, kill her boyfriend's brother, or whatever's left of him. Exactly what Wardwell wants, finally severing Harvey and Sabrina's bond. Not to mention Roz's cunning and Susie's visits from Dorothea have shown the two that Sabrina is a witch, and they begin to wonder if Sabrina is evil. Looks like everything's coming up Wardwell. Finally, it's time for Sabrina to tell Harvey the truth, for real this time. She fills him in on everything. The sleep potion, how she resurrected him, and how she's a witch. Something Harvey now remembers she told him before back in episode 1. And Harvey's sighting in the mines begins to make sense to him, and Sabrina too. Finally, she explains that what's in the other room isn't Tommy, at least not the part that makes him Tommy, and it needs to go back in the ground. Harvey says he'll be the one to do it, and then after, he won't want to see Sabrina for a while.
Why? I don't want to.
You killed my brother, you dirty rat.
Harvey then builds up his courage and, like a true Kinkle, assumes the easiest and cleanest way to take care of his brother is to shoot him in the head. That's gonna be quite the mess to clean up before your dad gets back. Outside, Sabrina hears a gunshot and it's done. As soon as she gets home, she falls into Zelda's arms, lamenting everything she's done and her now fractured relationship with Harvey. And Zelda just holds her, comforts her, like the mother she truly is. Thanks everyone for watching. Next episode is the last, and I'll be doing an ending explain video along with the breakdown, so be sure to check that out and like and subscribe. See you all next time on The Path of Night.